Okay. Minute to Eis Ches. Here's where the Rebbe takes us to a whole new place. The last thing we said in Zion, in the short little lives of Zion, was that that all of Torah is one level. And that the mashal that was brought was Tefillah and Shabbos. That just like Tefillah and Shabbos is much less a milchama than Tefillah during the week, it's still Tefillah. So too, all the different levels of Torah, Nigla, Pnimis Torah, the deepest level of Pnimis Torah, the level where we see the Elokus in Torah, all of those levels are ultimately one because it's all Torah Achas. It's all one Torah. Now the Rebbe is going to explain that in terms of this whole Inyan in Avodah, and it's really quite astounding. It says something about our performance of mitzvahs. It's really quite astounding. Now, before we see it, there just happens to be, and the Rebbe is going to mention it right away in the Ois, but there's a very interesting anomaly in the whole story of Pode besholom relative to the freedom of the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe was in jail. It was a very serious charge. The Mittler Rebbe, as we said at the beginning of the Maimer, it was very different. There were accusations made. The Mittler Rebbe was asked to come testify. He went to go testify. He was held, so to speak, incarcerated. But I mean, in much different situation than the Alter Rebbe. He did not have to go to Petersburg. He wasn't in the horrible prison in Petersburg. He was in Vitebsk, which was nearby. He was allowed to teach Chassidus to the Chassidim every day because the doctor said that if he didn't teach Chassidus, it would harm his health. So it was completely different incarceration. On the other hand, interesting enough, when the Alter Rebbe got out, so it was basically over. Whereas the Mittler Rebbe, it was not over, even though they let him go, but the whole process wasn't really over. Now the Mittler Rebbe passed away soon after. This was the Mittler Rebbe got out Yud Kislev. I always understood that it was the next year that the Rebbe passed away. Someone told me that it was 2 years. I'm not so sure. Right? I always understood it was the next year, and that's why they never celebrated Yud Kislev, because the Rebbe passed away on Tes Kislev the next year, which was his birthday. Mittler Rebbe is the only Rebbe who was born and passed away on the same day. But what's interesting about the fact that this pasuk is connected to those two events, and that's why all these Maimarim and Pode besholom exist. By the Rebbeim, it was anything but Pode besholom. They were jailed. People had to say Tehillim. It's interesting enough, people were davening for their freedom. They weren't learning for their freedom. They were davening for their freedom, meaning they were involved in the milchama of Tefillah to try to free them. And they themselves were involved in a tremendous milchama against the authorities. So exactly what the Pode besholom of that is sort of interesting. And that's what the Rebbe is going to deal with now in terms of understanding a deeper appreciation of what Pode besholom means. So we read this line yesterday, we'll read it again, the first couple of lines. Vulaye ois ches kuf pehe cafe page coffee. Vulaye shloimar ba'emek yosef. Shagam hadarga de pedia shebederech melchama. Even that level of pedia, redemption. We don't know if we don't know what pedia is at this point. We're in trouble. Shebederech melchama. That's a battle. But since it's called Padiyah, which the Rebbe is now going to start calling Geula, right? Why? Well, because of the Gemara that we're going to quote. He shayeches lePadiyah besholom. It's relevant to the notion of Padiyah besholom. Every level of Padiyah is Padiyah besholom, even that of Milchama. How can that be? Let's see. And not only is it shayech to Padiyah besholom, is it relevant to that reality, but relative to that reality, ad ledarga hachi nailis, to the highest level of Padiyah besholom, of Pode besholom, shetir b'yemei Mashiach, that will be b'yemei Mashiach, b'tkufa shniya, in the second period of b'yemei Mashiach, complete and total calm in the world. Animals are going to get along. Ubeloshen Chazal, as Chazal say, and we're basing it on this Gemara in Megillah. Milchama nami aschalta de geula. The the war is also the beginning of the geula, beginning of the redemption. And why? Rashi says, Kevin the shem geula Allah, because the name geula is on it. On what? On the milchama. This is a milchama that's ultimately for the purpose of coming to a state of geula. So the milchama itself is shaykh to the reality of geula. And it might be that I can't come to a state of geula without the battle. Well, that's we're seeing that in Gashmias, obviously, in what's happening around us here in Eretz Yisrael. So too in Ruchnius. Let's see. Based on this, we can explain more Hakesher, the connection shall geula the Yud Kislev Yud Tes Kislev, the states of redemption of the Mitler Rebbe on Yud Kislev and the Alter Rebbe on Yud Tes Kislev, ima pasuk Pode besholom nafsh. Because again, this pasuk is very powerfully connected. The Alter Rebbe said, I was saying that pasuk as I left. Why? Well, as we mentioned earlier when we started learning the Myra, but it's always good to review. Why was he saying that? He's let out on the 19th of the month. That's not the Tehillim of the 19th of the month, but that is the Tehillim of Tuesday. If Tehillim is divided up into 7 different pieces, so to speak, as opposed to 30 different pieces. There's 30 different parts of Tehillim, and that's Tehillim that we say every day, 1 part per month. But Tehillim can also be divided up into weekly, meaning you can finish Tehillim in a week, right? And based on that, and if you look at the Tehillim, it says Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi, right? There's also 5 books of Tehillim, corresponding to the 5 books of the Torah, so it's also divisible into 5. But in terms of saying Tehillim, there's 2 ways of dividing Tehillim up in terms of saying. One is to say all of Tehillim every week, meaning each day you say 1/7 of Tehillim, and by month, which is what we all do. As I mentioned earlier, I have a friend, lives here in Yerushalayim, very interesting person. So the Rebbe told him many years ago, very close to 50 years ago, the Rebbe told him to say the Tehillim of the week. So he says both. He says a lot of Tehillim every day. He's saying Tehillim a lot. He says it fast, but he says a lot of Tehillim every day. So why the Alter Rebbe was saying the Tehillim as it's divided up weekly, and therefore the Yom Shlishi, Tuesday's Tehillim, includes the capital of Pode besholom. And so that's why the Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe was saying that. The Mitler Rebbe was let out on the 10th of the month, and Pode besholom is part of the Tehillim on the 10th of the month. He did not tell us he was saying this pasuk. The Alter Rebbe said, I was let out of jail while I was saying this pasuk. The Mitler Rebbe didn't say that. But the Mitler Rebbe said this pasuk on that day because it happened to be the 10th of the month. So he definitely said Tehillim that day. So they're both relevant to this pasuk. The Rebbe says, at first glance, how do you do it? It's no. Mahalach in Yonim, the order of things. Mahalach means how it walked, how it went, the way things happened. Begulas ad Marazokim, regarding the redemption of the Alter Rebbe. Valderach said Begulas ad Maramsoi, and also relative to the Gula of the Mitler Rebbe, his son, Shayu and Yonim Shaliskafia. Hishtadlus. There was tremendous hiskafia, meaning tremendous battles. Hishtadlus, tremendous effort. Right? All of the Chassidim in Russia were organized to give tzedakah and to daven. And there was foreign pressure. It was a major event. Right? This major rabbi was in jail and his life was in danger. He had been taken away in the famous black carriage. The black carriage was something that meant you basically never came back. When the Alter Rebbe was arrested, again, the Mitler Rebbe wasn't arrested. The Mitler Rebbe went in his own carriage to Vitebsk. But the Alter Rebbe was arrested. First time they came, of course, he ran away. Right? He didn't let them arrest him. It was Sukkot. And he didn't let them arrest him, and he discussed the whole event with Rav Shmuel Munkus, who was a very famous chassid, and he asked Rav Shmuel, should I let them arrest me or not? And Rav Shmuel said, famous line, if you're a Rebbe, so they can't do anything to you, so you can let them arrest you. And if you're not a Rebbe, and you've stolen the pleasures of this world from all of your Chassidim by being so harsh on us, and making us do such serious avodas Hashem, but it's all a fake, and you deserve it, and you should go get it. So the Alter Rebbe let them take him after Sukkot. That was Shmuel Monkes' line.
That was great.
You stole Olam Hazeh. I mean, he didn't really steal Olam Hazeh because we have a pretty good Olam Hazeh, but what he meant was, people have to worry about things a little more serious than simply making a living and somehow managing an Olam Hazeh because of you. So, if you're not real, you deserve it. The Baruch Hashem, the Alter Rebbe is real. Shai, when Yonim Shal Iskapet, there was tremendous, it's tremendous battle. Hainu and Yonim Shal Milchama. It was a battle. It was a battle royal, the whole thing. So it's so interesting that Pode besholom is shaykh to these two events. These two events were very, very difficult events, very painful events. The Chassidim were mamish. They didn't know what to do with themselves. The Alter Rebbe was taken away in that black carriage. That black carriage meant you're never coming back. That's what it meant. And yet we connect this in a pasuk Pode besholom nafshi. We connect it to our pasuk Shekai that's relevant to as the Mittler Rebbe says in the Mimer that we've been basing this on al Pediya besholom, on this Pediya besholom Kameshi betachlis hashleimus, as it is on the highest level, which is the second Tekufa of Mashiach. So here we have a situation that is as gullus dick as you could possibly imagine, right? That involves incredible battles against the non-Jewish authorities, and yet somehow that's connected to Pode besholom, and not only to Pode besholom, but to the highest level of Pode besholom, which is the level of revelation of godliness in the time of Immerse Mashiach, in the second Tekufa of Immerse Mashiach, where there's absolute, complete, and total sholom in the world between people, animals, beyond anything we can imagine. We'll see it. So the Rebbe says, Yesh lehem Rabbi Bezeh. And those words are always very important words when you hear them in the Sikh or the Mimer. Right? The Rebbe would say, while the Rebbe was saying the Mimers, Yesh lehem Rabbi in them, and then away you go. Now, very, very often when the Rebbe says those words, the Rebbe is saying something that's basically a chiddush. Right? Especially when there's no footnote. I mean, the Rebbe's not quoting other Rebbeim explaining this issue. The Rebbe's explaining this issue in a way that might be a rather novel explanation. So the Rebbe says something quite astounding in the next 10, 12 lines. The kol hadargas, all of the levels should be Pediya, in this notion of Pediya, redemption, Kshuris ima Pediya are connected, bound with the Pediya besholom, the level of Pode besholom, betachlis hashleimus, on the highest level, in the most complete way, shetia losid lavi, that will be in the future days. Meaning even the lowest level, the most basic Pediya is shaykh to the most powerful expression of shalom. So in physical matters, and it happens to be current events, right? In physical matters, so if someone is at war, and even if they don't necessarily end the war, but they take a day off, so that day off, mitzad, now, it might be the only reason they're taking that day off is they're licking their wounds to go fight another day. It's usually what happens from the other side, right? Okay, so, but what? That day off is still a day off. It's still a day of shalom. There's no fighting. No one died that day. No one was hurt that day. Oh, so there's something very special about that day. This has nothing to do with whether geopolitically it's the right thing to do, not the right thing to do, the best thing to do in long term. That's not the issue. The issue is that day off is a day of shalom. Right? Now, it might be a day of shalom. There's just a day of shalom, so I'm preparing to go out and beat the living daylights out of the guy tomorrow. Okay, Seder, but today I'm not there. Today I'm calm. Today I'm in a state of shalom. Oh, so that's interesting in terms of physical war. So the Rebbe is going to see that that's on a much deeper level, also relative to Avodah Hashem, that the most basic, lowest level is ultimately connected to the highest level. V'yuven ze al pi ma shemevar bala geula ba'maimer. This is explained based on what the Bala Geula says in the Maimonides, the Mitler Rebbe. The Inyan Pode besholom nafshi b'avedas adam. What's the state in a Veda of complete and total shalom, where the person's relationship, meaning the battle in a Veda is the battle between the Nefesh Elokis and the Nefesh Abamis. Those two are battling over control of our conscious reality. Now, the Nefesh Abamis is our conscious reality, okay, but the Nefesh Elokis wants control over that conscious reality and wants conscious you and me to simply be a vehicle for the expression of the Nefesh Elokis, for the godly soul's desires. What does my Nefesh Abamis want? What does conscious me want? Well, conscious me might actually want that. That doesn't mean I'm necessarily doing it all the time, but if you were to ask someone, would you like your conscious reality to be completely connected to Elokus? I would imagine if you would ask people in this building, a lot of people would say, yeah, that would be very nice. I'd like that. What pill do I take? Right? Well, unfortunately, not a pill. It's extremely hard work, right? Which is why maybe, okay, it's a nice idea, but, pass the whipped cream so I can put it on top of my coffee. Right? Okay. Right? So because I'm not necessarily willing to make the sacrifices to experience that reality. Okay, but that's not that I don't understand that reality would be a nice thing. Now, who is understanding that? Well, my Nefesh Abamis is understanding that. Conscious me is understanding that. Is conscious me ready to make the sacrifices to do that? Oh, shikein, oh, shalom, right? This isn't show and tell, right? And everybody in a different level, etc. Okay, but that's the idea, and that's the battle. The Nefesh Elokis would like the Nefesh Abamis simply to be a conduit for the expression of the Nefesh Elokis. Conscious me should express real me, essential me. That's a state of absolute shalom and a state of absolute health. Okay, that's the ultimate state of shalom. Now, when is that experienced? State of Mesiras Nefesh. In a state of Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice, and I was going to say it in the next line, so we'll be able to go through it more quickly when we see it. The state of Mesiras Nefesh, when a Jew taps into and accesses Yechida Shebenefesh, the essence of his soul. And what's unique about that essence? That essence is from a place where there is no adversary. There is only the Eibishter. All other levels of soul, godly soul, have an adversary in the animal soul. Even the fourth level, I was going to say this explicitly, even the fourth level called Yechida Shebenefesh. Yechaya Shebenefesh, I'm sorry. Yechida Shebenefesh is the essence of the soul, and relative to that level of you and I, there is no adversary. So that's a place of complete peace. It's not even that the adversary has been vanquished. There is no adversary. In that place, if you and I can access that place, so then the statement that's usually said by the Rebbeim describing that and what's the source of the Mesiras Nefesh, the self-sacrifice that comes from that place, Azoy v'nit andrish. This is the way it is, and there is no other way. There's Elokus and nothing else. Therefore, on that level, it is impossible for a Jew to be separate from Elokus. No matter what we do in Eilam Hazeh, that level of our neshama is connected to the Eibishter. That means if we access that level, it's impossible for you and I to do something that will separate us from the Eibishter. If that level resonates somehow in conscious me, it will be impossible for me to do something against the will of the Eibishter, and it won't be a battle, it'll be an absolute expression of shalom, peace, calm. Why? Because it's who I am.
Is that possible?
Absolutely, Mesiras Nefesh. And to our great dismay, the history of the Jewish people is so full of Mesiras Nefesh that we are defined by that self-sacrifice, the fact that Jews will give up their life rather than separate themselves from God because they can't be separate. And we'll see what the Rebbe says here, which is even more astounding, but just generally, yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So the greatest expression of Pode besholom in the Veda is Mesiras Nefesh. The Pode besholom b'Veda Sa'adam shapadia the Nefesh Eloki. I see I skipped that line, didn't I? I'm sorry. I don't know. How did we get past those? Somehow I mentioned Mesiras Nefesh. Okay, maybe I hadn't read it. Okay, so let's start V'Yuvan. V'Yuvan zalpi mashem avar balagula b'maimer the inyan Pode besholom nafshi b'Veda Sa'adam. The idea of Pode besholom b'avedas Adam, in the brackets, shapadia, the nefesh elokis, that the redemption of the nefesh elokis, the geula, which is how the Rebbe he's saying those two words are synonymous, the geula of the nefesh elokis, mihagolus, the nefesh abahamis, from its golus of the nefesh abahamis, he ba'ofen the shalom, is in a way of shalom. And what does that mean? Sha nefesh abahamis eina min agedes klal, that the nefesh abahamis does not oppose this state at all. Complete shalom. When is that? Hu kishaveda hi b'mesiras nefesh. That's when the aveda is b'mesiras nefesh. Self-sacrifice. U'b'mesiras, that doesn't mean you have to die. Right? That means you're living. I mean, it might ultimately result in that, but it doesn't have to result in that. U'b'mesiras nefesh gufa, and mesiras nefesh itself, mesiras nefesh de yechida. Yechida, which is the name for the essence of the soul, the name for that fifth level of the soul that is essentially connected to a Kadosh Baruch Hu and cannot be separated. It is impossible to separate that level of your neshama from the Eibishter. It's also impossible to make that level of your neshama closer to the Eibishter. Right? The mashal that's always used, even it's not a perfect mashal, especially now when medicine can fiddle around with DNA, hopefully for good purposes, right? But DNA, your DNA. So your DNA is you have black hair. Good. You dye your hair blonde for 60 years. Does that change your DNA? No, your DNA is still black. You dye your hair black. Does that make your DNA more black? No. Doesn't change your DNA at all. Oh, okay. A yid is essentially connected. The DNA of a yid is elokus. That is who we are. That is what our neshama is all about. Our neshama is, for all intents and purposes, indistinguishable from the Eibishter. So to speak, up there where the neshama is what's called mushrash ba'atzmos, rooted in the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Where does the neshama end and where's the Eibishter end and the neshama begin, so to speak? That's a silly thing to say. It's no end and no beginning. It's one and the same. Okay. And in that place, there's no opposition. Now, there's 4 other levels of soul. Those 4 other levels of soul are called nefesh, ruach, neshama, and yechida. I rarely ever write on the board. College catalog, I have classes in God, field trips included. So, nefesh, ruach, this is going up, right? Neshama, these are the 3 levels of soul that are shaykh to the body. Chaya sheba nefesh, yechida sheba nefesh. Okay? These are the 3 levels that are responsible for aspects of your conscious life. Action, emotions, intellect, going from the bottom up. Speech is ruach. Chaya sheba nefesh is an aspect of your soul that is transcendent, generally understood as the source of your ratzon, your desire for elokus. Where is that? It's not clothed in the body. The 3 levels, the bottom 3 levels of the soul are clothed in the body. So they're down here with us, so to speak. That level of chaya hangs out in a place called Eilam Atzilus. Right? That level of your soul, while you're down here, there's a part of you that's in Eilam Atzilus, which is a world of absolute godliness. And your soul is experiencing that godliness. How much of that experience is resonating in my conscious reality? Very little, if any. I'm not aware of that. I don't live there. I live here. So I'm aware of what's going on down here. Okay, might that express itself in me now and then? Yes, I might all of a sudden feel a tremendous spiritual inspiration. Could very well be like that level of neshama is stirring me up, right? A little bit. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Okay, and that might even be the source of Mesiras Nefesh, right? Meaning I don't want to separate from the Eibishter. But those 4 levels of neshama, the 4 lower levels, there's an opposing force in the Nefesh HaBahamis relative to all of them. Right? So there's intellect of the Nefesh Bahamis, human intellect. Emotions of the Nefesh Bahamis, human emotion. There's obviously the actions of the Nefesh Bahamis. There's also the Ratzon of the Nefesh Bahamis, the desire, the will of the Nefesh Bahamis. That's the opposing force to the level of Nefesh Elokis called Chaya. So when Chaya Shebenefesh wants to bring about a situation, well, always wants to bring about this situation, but when it's able to bring about a situation where your desire down here mirrors your desire, your conscious desire down here mirrors your godly desire above, that's a result of the Nefesh Elokis beating the living daylights out of the Nefesh Bahamis up there in the battle, because they're both trying for control, and the Nefesh Bahamis wants the will that comes into your conscious reality to be its will, and it'll decide that maybe it's a good idea to have some ice cream. And your Nefesh Elokis says, well, maybe it's a good idea to give someone else ice cream. Right, and they're battling away up there, and whoever wins, so okay, fine, that'll be the Ratzon that comes into your conscious thought, and then you have to decide whether you're going to do it or not do it. Okay, but there is an opposing force up there, down there, wherever. Usually we talk about the Ratzon of the Nefesh Bahamis being subconscious, and the Ratzon of the Nefesh Elokis being superconscious, but whatever. Right, it's not conscious me, but it's trying to express itself through conscious me. Right? Okay, so who am I going to express? Okay, so the Ratzon of the Nefesh Elokis and the Ratzon of the Nefesh Bahamis are battling that out. Now, it might be that the Nefesh Elokis wins hands down, Baruch Hashem. Guess what? There's going to be another battle in whatever time frame you want to talk about. It's not over. Right? It's not over at all. Whereas, were there to be a revelation of Yechida Shebenefesh, there's no battle. Because there is no level of Nefesh Bahamis that corresponds to that level of the Nefesh Elokis. There is no opposition. That's a place of absolute godliness, completely calm, peaceful expression of godliness. And if I can access that level of my neshama, then my reality down here will be a reality of absolute godly calm.
So there's no Bahama for Yechidus?
Yechida? No. Absolutely none.
Remember, so Yechida is the higher level, and the lower level has 4 levels.
Well, there's 5 levels of the soul. So the lower level, you could, it depends how you define it. There's 4 levels lower than Yechida. It's not so much the lower level has 4. No, there's 4 lower levels. Those are 2 different things. Right? The lowest level of neshama is called nefesh. That's the part of the neshama that's clothed in the body and is responsible for action. Now, that also works through the Nefesh Bahamis. That also works. What's wrong? Rabbi Levin is too excited? Should I sit down there and I'll yell too? In the old building, remember the old building, there were 2 rooms upstairs?
Yeah.
Right, so those 2 rooms used to be separated only by an accordion wall. So you could open it up and have a big, huge room. This is 20 plus years ago. Right? So that accordion wall is still in between the 2 walls. Rather than which was smart, they just built 2 walls, one on each side, in case they ever wanted to take down the walls, the accordion would still be there. The idea was you could open that room and have it to be a huge room. You could fit 60, 70 students in the room, no problem. Right? But it was a problem having the accordion because when Rabbi Silberg taught Chassidus on one side of the wall and I taught on the other, or Gemara, depends on which time of the morning we were teaching, those were our rooms, so we could hear each other very clearly, and it was disturbing for the students down at that end. So they built a wall. No one knows there's an accordion in there, but it's still there. It's in between. It's in between those 2 walls. What? Why leave it? Because if you ever decide you want to open up the room because you've got so many, enough classrooms to make that a big, huge classroom, so it's very easy to do. And then just
you can slide the walls.
No, they would take the one, if they would tear down the walls, and what would be left in between, if they did, it'd be a major event. But if you decided, we don't want these walls anymore, we want this to be a big room, so there's still an accordion, which is useful to separate the room if that's what you want. So they just left it there, right?
Are there people in between them?
There's a couple of former students in between who, were causing a lot of trouble, and we just decided we'll throw them out.
Mr. Gorbachev.
There's a place to put food. It's not a problem. I wonder what they're doing now that we moved. It'd be interesting to know.
How's Bill that long?
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall.
There you go. It worked. Okay.
So Rabbi, you said nefesh is the level where there is physical. It's more physical.
Nefesh is the level of the godly soul that is responsible for physical action, but yet has to work through the animal soul. Hmm? The animal soul is the ultimate arbiter in all of this, because conscious you is what's deciding what you're doing. Why are you here this morning? Because you made a conscious decision to be here. Who made that conscious decision? Your Nefesh Bahamis. Why? Your Nefesh Bahamis wants to be here? Well, yes, your Nefesh Bahamis does want to be here. Is that the source of the desire? No, the source of the desire to be here is your Nefesh Elokis. Your Nefesh Elokis wants to be here. But your Nefesh Elokis can't do anything in this world if your Nefesh Bahamis doesn't agree. Your Nefesh Bahamis wants to do godly things all day long. Okay, so sometimes, Baruch Hashem, the Nefesh Bahamis agrees and therefore allows that desire of the Nefesh Elokis to be expressed down here, and you and I do all sorts of wonderful, amazing, godly things. And every now and then we do something that's pretty powerfully Nefesh Bahamis, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of godliness in that. Where's that coming from? Nefesh Bahamis neto. What's the Nefesh Elokis doing at that moment? It's in Gullus. It's in a state of Gullus. It can't express itself. If it's innocuous, so, the Nefesh Elokis is just, annoyed, so to speak, or it could chas v'shalom be painful if it's something really not healthy. Right? So.
Now, what about the second S level? What does that represent?
Generally, midos, emotions. Emotions and neshama is intellect. Now you'll find different expressions of it. Ruach is also speech. Ruach malala. When the Targum, the Aramaic translation of V'yipach ha'apa of Nishmas Chayim, that God blew into us in the Neshama, so it says Ruach malala, power of speech.
I apologize. Could you repeat it? The Nefesh Elokis, it has to basically convince our Nefesh Bahamas to act, while our Nefesh Bahamas was basically the main actuator of our actions.
Absolutely, conscious you. That person you referred to as I, he showed up today. Right? I showed up. Why did I show up? Well, my Nefesh Bahamis is I. That experience of I is my Nefesh Bahamis. Real I is my Nefesh Elokis. Okay, say that I spelled that with a small letter. That's my Nefesh Elokis. Say that. Have I come to a point where my essential state is one with my conscious state? No, I'm not a tzaddik. But that's a tzaddik. A tzaddik is someone who's come to the point that their essential state of reality, which is godly, is their conscious state. Their Nefesh Bahamis is simply a kli to reveal their Nefesh Elokis, and shows no opposition to that whatsoever. That doesn't mean they don't have challenges. Right? It'll just be different than our challenges. Right? They'll overcome those challenges, but they're still clothed in a body, so they're going to have certain challenges. Right? We know the Rebbe's feet hurt. It's just something everybody knew. Right? If you look carefully, you'll notice that one of the shoes of the Rebbe, always the sole was pushed down. The Rebbe didn't put his foot all the way into the shoe. He walked as if it was a slipper. The back was pushed down. It's a story. Reuven Dunan, all over Shalom, was a chassid here in Eretz Yisrael who was extremely close to the Rebbe. He was when he was a bacher, the Rebbe learned Tanya with him. And once he showed up a minute late because he had taken a rest so he could be fresh when he learned. He showed up a minute late. The Rebbe said, "You're a minute late," and that was the last time they ever learned Tanya together. But he was able to knock on the Rebbe's door and ask the Rebbe if he could come in. The Rebbe told him, "You can knock my door at any time, and if I have time, I'll talk to you." Right? He didn't take too much advantage of that, but he was able to do that. So he was very, very special. He was a tractor driver here in Eretz Yisrael. He lived in Haifa and he drove a tractor for a living. Yellow helmet, big John Deere tractor, huge red beard. It went white in there, but huge red beard. One of the wildest people you'll ever meet in your life. But he was, I mean, unbelievable, the relationship he had with the Rebbe. So once he was standing at the top of the stairs as the Rebbe was walking down into the shul, into the zal downstairs in 770, he noticed the Rebbe's shoe. So he snuck up behind the Rebbe and he put his finger in and he flipped up the back of the shoe so the Rebbe's foot would be in the shoe. Only Reuven would do that. No one else would do that. So the Rebbe walked down a couple of steps, adjusted the shoe, took his foot out, adjusted the shoe, and kept going. Now Reuven thought, oh my goodness gracious, what have I done? This is terrible. So he waited for the Rebbe to come back up. So I guess I was going to Mincha, whatever. It's a short visit downstairs. It was like a 5-hour for Bregan. And the Rebbe came back, and Reuven apologized. The Rebbe said an amazing thing to him. The Rebbe said, when your intentions are positive for another Jew, nothing negative will ever happen. You did that obviously because you cared for me, not because you cared for you. So then nothing negative will ever come out of such a thing. Amazing thing to say. If your intentions are proper for another Jew, nothing negative will happen. So that also unfortunately challenges us to realize that if something negative happened, maybe I have to judge whether my intentions were really what I thought my intentions were. Maybe they really weren't.
So
there's always a flip side of every coin. Mm-hmm.
So the goal of life is to try to work with the nefesh hamas to turn it into like a godly vessel, right? Like to basically to be kind of like nullified in the sense that it's doing something for the nefesh elokis.
Yep. I mean that the ultimate purpose of life is to bring Mashiach. But how do we do that? We do that by working on getting our nefesh bahamis to be that I should love God and I should be interested in expressing godliness in the world. Av and Yira. Who's supposed to have this Av and Yira? My nefesh bahamis. My nefesh elokis has it. That's not a right? It's like I don't have to grow arms. Baruch Hashem, I have them. Right? Okay. So the nefesh elokis doesn't have to grow Av and Yira. It just wants to express its Av and Yira. So it has to express it through the nefesh bahamis. The nefesh bahamis has to come through a state of Av and Yira.
Is this all on us, or does Hashem help us in some way?
Hashem is helping us. If it weren't for His help, we wouldn't be able to do it. But ultimately, we have to do it. We can't sit there and wait for Him to do it. We have to do it. Will He help us? Yes. He'll guide us. He'll help us. We'll see what the Rebbe's going to say in the top of the next page, right? That our purity will ultimately help guide us, and the Eibishter will help that guide. Okay, I'm saying it, but it's up to us. It's called a Veda. Mm-hmm. That's why it's real. That's why what you and I do is much more real than what angels do, because angels don't have the opportunity to do anything else. And we'll see. We're going to see what a mitzvah is. The Rebbe's going to explain what a mitzvah is. It's absolutely astounding. Yes?
Sorry, what was the quote again? If our intentions are good for another Jew,
then nothing negative will come out if our intentions are proper. Meaning, he was saying, a simple shot in the story, he was saying to Reuven, don't worry about it, it's all right, I'm fine. But he taught him a rather important lesson within the context of it. Now, look what the Rebbe says here. It's quite astounding. Okay, so, Inyan Pode besholom is Hi kishavedi b'mesiras nefesh, u'mesiras nefesh gufa, mesiras nefesh diachida. The highest level of mesiras nefesh. Because why? It could be that and this is the mesiras nefesh. This is the level of mesiras nefesh that a non-Jew can come to. The level of mesiras. I mean, I understand. Non-Jews never sacrifice their lives. Of course they do. Soldiers in armies are sacrificing their life for their country. Right? But where's it coming from? The level of chaya sheba nefesh. It's coming from a level of an intense desire, which is a desire that's still relevant to my existence as an individual, an intense desire to express myself within the context of defending my country or whatever it happens to be. That's who I see myself as, and that's what I want to do, and that's an incredible thing. It's an amazing thing. But it's not on the level of Mesiras Nefesh of the Akedah. Everything else Avram Avinu did, the Rebbe explains, could be understood as doing something for himself, as much as it was self-sacrifice. Avram jumped in a furnace, for goodness sake. Why isn't that self-sacrifice? Why is the Akedah any better than that? Because what could someone say? This isn't true by Avram, but what could be said about that act? Well, he realized that if he didn't jump into the furnace, then his life's work would be for naught, and he was willing for his life's work. He was willing to jump into the furnace. It was his life's work. Now that's not why Avram Avinu jumped in the furnace, but it could be understood that way. Oh, so therefore it wasn't an act of complete and total Mesiras Nefesh. What opened up the tzinor, the pipeline of Mesiras Nefesh for every single Jew afterwards? The Akedah. Why? There's no one there, no one to see, and he's about to kill his son, who is the only way in the world that his life's work will continue. He's willing to do that. That's what the Abishah wants. Well, okay, say it. Has nothing to do with him in any way, shape, or form. As a matter of fact, it's counterproductive mitzad him. But there's no him. That's where we see Mesiras Nefesh on the highest level, and that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Avram Avinu, please do this, because then they won't say the earlier ones were of naught. Why would they say? I understand. Jumping into a furnace is nothing. They can explain it as an expression of Avram's desire that his agenda in life should be successful. And that's why a soldier will join an army in Russia or in wherever else. And it'll be beis nefesh. Okay, but it's Mesiras Nefesh, there is no Yechidah Shabbat it can't be coming from there. Whereas Avram Avinu is the one who gave you and I the ability to connect to Yechidah Shabbat Nefesh. That's why it all comes from the Akedah. Yeah, that's why we say it every day.
Was Avram's action of greater godliness than Yitzhak's, or were they on the same level?
It's a good question. Basically, the way Rashi explains it's on the same level, generally, it was two different avodas, but the same level of Mesiras Nefesh. Even though it's different avodah. Killing your son is one avodah. Allowing yourself to be killed is another avodah. They're both rather, in a strange way, rather impressive, but each of them had a different avodah, but that's why Rashi explains in Chumash, those amazing psukim, why it says, before Yitzchak knew what was going on, it says, V'yelchu shneim yachdav, and they went together. Then Yitzchak asks Avram, well, where's the korban? And Avram hints to him that he's the korban. And what does it say at the end of that pasuk? It just said it in the pasuk before. What does it say again? V'yelchu shneim yachdav. They both went together. So the first time, only Avram knows what's happening, and he has the simcha of Yitzchak. The second time, Yitzchak also knows, and he has the simcha of Avram. And Chassidus also explains that one of the most important part of the whole thing was they did it b'simcha. Because in all fairness, if God tells you, so then doing it is less impressive. God shows up and tells you, I want you to do this. Okay, say this. So why in the world would anybody not do that? But they also did it b'simcha. Even though it was seemingly a ridiculous thing to do. Okay. So what's the Mesiras? No, let's go right to the Mysticism. The Al Yedei Mesiras Nefesh Shemitzad Chaya. That as a result of the Mesiras Nefesh Shemitzad Chaya, which is what we were just talking about. Naser Rak. What happens at that moment? Is Kafya Nefesh Abamis. The Nefesh Abamis is subdued. What aspect of the Nefesh Abamis? That level that would correspond to Chaya, Ratzon, subconscious, superconscious level of Nefesh Abamis, subdued. But it's there to fight another day. It's just not going to win this battle, or might not even be fighting this battle so much. It could be later, but it's saving its energy for the next battle. Specifically, the Mesiras Nefesh that comes from the level of Yechida Shebenefesh, the essence of the soul. He mispateles, the Nefesh Bahamis, the animal soul, mispateles lagamri, is completely nullified. Pode besholom, like the second level of Yemesa Mashiach. Absolute, complete, and total shalom. There is no aspect of milchama in the world, not even between the wolf and the lamb. Val Pisa, another Rebbe says an amazing thing. I just want to make sure that we get to this today. So it's not right to not let you know this today or spend 24 hours of your life, more of your life without knowing this. Not fair, you have to know this. Val Pisa, Yuva, Nakesher, the Pedia. Based on this, we can understand the connection between Pedir, Shebaderech Milchama, the victory that comes as a result of a war, and that's Avodah Shemitzad Chaya. That's the Avodah that comes from Chaya Shebenefesh, right? Where there is an opposing force. Ulamata Yeser, and even lower Avodah Shemitzad Naran, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. Those three levels we just wrote on the board. Obviously, down there's going to be an intellect of the Nefesh Bahamis that might try to convince you of the truth of its position. There certainly are emotions of the Nefesh Bahamis that might want you to connect to certain things in a very powerful way, albeit those things are not godly. And then the action of the Nefesh Bahamis that wants you to do things that are not connected to godliness. Okay, those different levels of the battle. Right? Remember years ago, teaching in a school, I taught for someone who went away in a school that was not a Lubavitcher school, and I was teaching the Chumash, Rashi, Ramban with these girls just for 2 weeks while their teacher went away, and one of the girls talked about loving her car. So we had a very long farbring in that class about loving a car. It was fascinating. They had never thought of the idea that would be a funny thing to say. Wait a minute, is that a reasonable expression of love? Doesn't mean you can't enjoy owning your car. It's very useful. You like it. It's runs well, does everything. But is that a reasonable place to express the emotion of love? Well, it's certainly not coming from the godly soul, that love. Okay. We talked about that at great length. So that would be an expression of ruach being misplaced. Because after all, if I love my car, I might scream at someone who does something to my car, which means I might be more interested in the welfare of my car than the emotional well-being of the person I'm screaming at because they scratched my car inadvertently. Well, I'm supposed to be more emotionally attached to a piece of metal. In those days, they were metal, right? As opposed to the emotional well-being of another human being. It's a pretty bizarre set of priorities. Well, that can happen if I love my car, because then I love my car more than I love this guy. So I'll scream at him because he had the audacity to accidentally scratch my car. If he took a sledgehammer to my car, so I still shouldn't scream at him, but I understand why I'm not necessarily going to consider him my best friend. I get it. What are you doing? Okay, but that person who inadvertently did something to your car might even be your child sitting in the back seat who spilled something on your leather upholstery. And you might even scream at your child and say, "Why are you so stupid that you did that?" Whoa. What's more important, the emotional well-being of that child or the upholstery in your Audi?
I just use Audi.
Right. Okay, but that's every parent has fallen for that at some point in their parenthood. They did something that they're embarrassed of. That was a hard day, and it was the heat of the moment. But I mean, obviously, they love the child more than they love the car. But okay, in all fairness, you're the idiot that gave the kid milk in a bottle in the back of the car. So if you don't want milk spilled in the back of the car, don't give your kid milk in the back of the car. Give him a bottle of water. But he's going to cry, so he'll cry. He'll get over it. Don't worry. He'll figure it out. If he's thirsty, he'll drink, and if he won't, but I don't want to put up with the crying. I don't have the energy right now to put up with the crying. Well, then you better put up with the possibility of milk spilling on your back seat. Welcome to parenthood. Make your choice. Right? But don't yell at the kid if he spills milk on these two. Of course he's going to spill milk on the back. He's a dummy, right? They spill milk all over the place. Everywhere they go, they spill stuff, right? So you don't want milk on the back. So don't give him a bottle of milk. You're the adult in this situation. Then you scream at the poor kid because he spilled milk. What are you crazy? Right? Okay. But every parent falls to that. The two parents are laughing at this because we've all fallen prey to this. And then you feel like such an idiot. Oh my gosh. Okay. But the car smells like milk until you sell it. You can never, ever get that smell out. Ever. Right? You can't get it out. Don't give your kid milk in the back of the car because you'll never, ever get rid of that smell. It like, in the summer it like heats up and then it's just there. Ugh, so annoying. It's like putrid every time you open your car. Ugh. Right? And who's, a fault doesn't matter in the end, right? But bottom line, whose fault? Your fault. You gave him milk. What are you doing? Give him water. Right? Give him juice. Even, watered down juice. Right? Don't put chocolate in the milk. Why? What happens if you marry a doctor?
Someone's car is beeping.
No,
Alarm.
because if you put chocolate in the milk, then it binds all the calcium, and the child gets no goodness from the milk. So that chocolate powder that we put in milk for children, because drinking milk is good for children, well, no, it's not, because they don't absorb any of the calcium by virtue of the chocolate powder you put in the milk. So my kids always used to come to me to make their chocolate milk. Because I was putting a few more granules than my wife. My wife would put in like 2 grains of that powder, and there would just be a little brown spot on the top. That was it. And they'd go, "Oh, Ima," and they'd come to me, and I'd throw in a little more. I was the soft touch when it came to chocolate milk. I didn't make it brown, but it's not good for you. Tastes good. Okay, let's see what the Rebbe says here, because it's almost 8:30 and I turn into a pumpkin at 8:30. I don't want to do it in public. Al pize yuvan akesher the pediyah shebederech milchama. Al vayda shemitzad chaya. The battles that we have with our nefesh bahamis. Ulamata yeser al vayda shemitzad nefesh ruach neshama. How is this connected? Pode, besholom nafshi yechida. Look at what the Rebbe says in the next line. It's absolutely astounding. He's going to bring Tanya and show you how it's really based on the Alter Rebbe. Ki b'chol avoda v'avoda. Every act of avoda that you and I do, the greatest or the simplest, in our relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, deciding I had 2 rugalach, I'm not going to have another rugala because it's just a little too much getting into my nefesh bahamis. This is the battle. Okay, Beseder, I decided this is my battle. Or putting on tefillin. One relatively innocuous, the other a mitzvah deraisa. Okay. In every avodah that we do, yesh ba behelem, in a hidden way, a mesiras nefesh mitzad yechida. You asked if we can access it. The Rebbe just said that every single time you ever do anything in your relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, on some level, there's a little piece of yechidah of the nefesh in that action. Wow. Why? Because you don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have to do anything. Meaning, yes, I know it says in the Torah you're supposed to keep Shabbos. You don't have to keep Shabbos. You can do whatever you want. That's the way God created the world. If I created the world, I wouldn't let them do everything they want. I would make sure that they know that I created the world and they have to follow my... I would make sure they know it's me, and every single thing would have my name on it. Right? God's completely chilled. He created the world and he said, you know what? I'm going to give you energy and existence, and I'm going to give you energy and existence while you're sitting at the computer writing a book about the fact that I don't exist. And I'm going to give you energy to do that. And the only reason you can do that is because I exist, and you're going to write a book about I not existing. Because you're an idiot. Okay, Beseder, I'll let you be an idiot. Not a problem. You can do whatever you want. It's your world. Take care of it. You want to completely destroy it? I'll just watch. You want to make it better? Be there. It's up to you, completely. So what's in every single act? That level of you and I that can't separate from the Eibishter. So we do it. I once heard a story from someone, an amazing story, that he said, he was being overly dramatic when he told the story, but it's still, it's an amazing story. So he ran into a kid from Borough Park, and the kid said that he never understood. He grew up in Borough Park. He said, I never understood these guys who go to the Minyan at 6 o'clock, they're finished at 6:19, and they get on the train and they go to work. They go to Minyan every single day. They don't enjoy it. And they do it so fast that they can't possibly say all the words that fast. It just can't be. No one can say the words that fast. Even Rabbi Kaplan can't say the words that fast. Right? No one can say them that fast. But they do it every morning. But they don't like it. But they do it every morning. So the kid then said, a friend of mine, he was talking to this kid 40 years ago in Borough Park. So the kid said, you know why they do it? Because God said so. That's beautiful. What's the only reason those people are davening? You're supposed to like davening, you're supposed to spay. Of course this isn't the way davening is supposed to be. I get that. But that person, why is he davening? Yechidah shebenefesh. Because he can't not. No such thing. No such thing. Getting up in the morning and not davening. It doesn't exist. He's not doing a good job at it. Not doing a good job at it. But this person, Baruch Hashem, is so connected to the Eibishter that the idea of getting up in the morning and not davening doesn't exist, even though he's so not connected to what's happening that you would wonder, well, why do you keep doing this? And he would look at you like, why do I keep doing it? I'm going to get up in the morning and not daven. What are you, nuts? I'm going to get up in the morning and not daven? I mean, if some person who doesn't understand Yiddishkeit, doesn't understand anything, would ask this person, whatever his name is, right? Shmilik. Why do you do this every day, right? So his non-Jewish partner in his business, wherever he is. Like, I understand, you look tired. Yeah, why do you get up and you go to the mikveh and you daven and you pray? Well, I don't know. I waited for you outside. You didn't look so interested. Shmulik has a havamina not to pray in the morning. I mean, there's such a thing that exists. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing. He does a crummy job. I'm not saying you should do a crummy job, obviously, right? But that guy who does the crummy job, why is he doing it? One reason only. God said so. This wasn't my idea. If I wrote the book, I would probably leave this part out because I'm not very good at this part. Which is like most of us. We're not very good at that part. We're better at putting on the tefillin than we are telling God we love Him in the words on the book. Okay. So I'll put on tefillin, I'll put on talis, and I'll say, okay, God, Shema Yisrael, I'm off. Nope. You got to say some stuff. So fast you can't even hear it. So anybody says it. Is there a havamina not to say it? No, it doesn't exist. Where's that coming from, the Rebbe just said? Yechidah shebenefesh, that part of this yid that cannot separate from the Eibishter. Wow. And the Rebbe just said, every single mitzvah that you and I do, behelem, on some hidden level, it's coming from that place. The place that you and I are intrinsically and essentially connected to the Eibishter, and we can't separate. Wow. That's therefore what? Now, the answer to the question is obvious. We're just going to flesh it out. Therefore, every single act that you and I do, even the biggest milchama, is really Pode besholom. But pnimius, the deepest place in that act is what? You're a yid, and you're inseparable from the Eibishter. You can't be separate. So you're doing a mitzvah. Wow. That's really unbelievable. Let's just see where there's the source in Tanya, and then we'll stop. Ukadisa betanya. The Rebbe says this in the 41st parak in Tanya, the longest parak in Tanya, the beginning of the parak. I was talking about Yira, and that's the part we say every day before davening. The beginning of parak Mem But later on in the parak, the Rebbe talks about Mesiras Nefesh, the Eisek HaTorah v'mitzvos, v'tefillah. One's involvement in Torah, mitzvahs, and tefillah. The Rebbe says in Tanya, he inyan Mesiras Nefesh mamash. Wow. So now the Rebbe continues talking about, we don't have time to do that now, we'll do it tomorrow morning. Okay. I assume Sunday there will not be shir, because there's a bringing my Shabbos. Rosh Chodesh Kislev, okay? So, yeah, I mean, we'll know if the Farbrengen ends, some week early. I can't imagine anything too early. We'll see. Okay? So it might be, tomorrow, obviously, this year. It might be, if I forget tomorrow, I mentioned today. It might be, there'll be no shir Sunday morning. It'll be, posted somewhere in the Mayanot. One of the 42 different Mayanot WhatsApp groups will let us know. Well, you guys can't complain. You have, 2 or 3. I have